obviously this is just some of the stuff you've done.
Yeah, this is just some of the stuff I could dig out rather than all of it.
But I wanted to ask, because obviously you've had such a massively diverse kind of like career for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, obviously having that year where, majority of your income was coming from game or AI-based stuff.
Yeah.
How did that diverse work history kind of feed into that? And kind of like, what was the journey of like going through those various companies? Because some were game studios, some were just tech companies, you were teaching as well.
Yeah.
Just how did it all kind of coalesce to actually come to what you wanted it to be?
Well, I think it's important to say that I'm still learning, these things change all the time, all technology changes, and you have to be up to date and like chase this thing, the developments, and I'm coder, but I'm not the best coder, for example. I think what I take from all those other experiences is that I can code. I spent a lot of time designing stuff, so I feel very passionate about user experience and the UI, as well as the music, and trying to get the music right and the sound design right for stuff. But also running businesses, I've run a few businesses in my time, and though they're not big businesses, they're just kind of small things. You learn a lot by working with people on projects and paying people and running the finance and running project management stuff as well. And you really learn like where your skills are as well. Like, I don't think I'm very good at project management, for example. So on our latest project, we've got a new project manager in to do that, because I was running the show, and it was just like, I didn't feel like people could say no to me, you know what I mean, as well. And it's like, no, you need to we need a third person that can push everyone, including me, along.
Is that because you had like quite like friendly relationships with those people prior to working with them? Was there like a...
Yeah, we're all friends, yeah. And
it's quite hard to see them as an authority figure or be like, no, I can't do that.
Well, you put your project management hat on. It's like, well, you said last week you were working on this thing, and has that thing finished yet? Or what have you been doing? And that's quite awkward if you're also the boss and also designing the project and stuff like that. I think people do it, but I find it easier, nicer if there's someone cracking the whip, who's there to crack the whip, basically. Yeah, that's their thing. Everyone knows where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a conscious decision to kind of work for the people that you have done in your career and to go into these various different avenues within like your field?
Yeah.
Or was it just it naturally happened and you just found your way into those jobs naturally?
Yeah, so I think I have had an odd career, because I've only had 2 jobs ever. So I had a job for a year out of uni doing the web stuff, and then I had 2.5 years at Virgin, which there's a picture of here somewhere.
Is it that one?
It's not now on that website sheet.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's a Virgin tribe up there. So I was the designer and web designer for Virgin for a little while, for their main office. So it's mostly like working on Virgin management and Richard Branson stuff. So the rest of the time, I've just been doing projects. I've just been a freelance project guy, and some of that is going into companies and being the UX guy, the UI guy, or the web dev guy. But most of the time, it's just finding interesting projects or people that need something, and working with those individuals or businesses, delivering whatever that is. And I've been really fortunate to have built that up alongside the teaching and some of the talking. And you get to a certain point where you can turn people down, and that's the best position to be in, because then you can pick and choose like more interesting stuff that you want to do.
Freelance is a tricky one though, isn't it? Because obviously, I mean, game industry I think is still fairly, there are still contract roles out there, but I would say freelance is probably, for certain roles, what you're going to come into mostly. Do you think that's fair?
I don't know, because I've never worked as an internal employee for one of these companies. So I currently run my own company making games, and I hear a lot of things from other people, and I think it's it's difficult, it's in the games industry because it's a bit like the film industry where you get these boom and bust situations. So you need loads of people to make a game, and then suddenly you've made the game, and then you might need no people again, or 5 instead of 50.
Yeah.
And that's like top end. If you're making big games, you're probably going from 30 to 200 people on a project, and then back down again. So you have to. I can only imagine in those companies you have to really plan for that and have several projects or a couple of projects going on that can facilitate that amount of people being pushed around to different projects. Because otherwise you get laid off or you are on a contract, like a short contract, so that you're in need of a certain amount of time, and then you need to find work, basically.
As someone has done a lot of freelance, could you talk a little bit about how you managed that alongside the other commitments that you were working on and creating a sustainable career from freelance? Because I think that's the thing that, particularly amongst students at a creative university, especially those who are just about to kind of graduate, that is the big question when they hear that freelance is quite predominant in the area that they want to progress into.
Yeah. So I would collect as much as possible. Network as much as possible and collect with other people as much as possible. I know a few people who have reciprocal kind of things that they do, skills. So there was a 3D artist and illustrator and then an animator. So when they both get jobs in, they probably can call each other up and say, actually, they need some more modelling done and they need X, Y, and Z. So if you have those people around you who can help you out, in music production, I guess it would be, if you don't do sound design, you might have, and you do music, maybe you have a sound designer, for example, or you might have someone who's more interested in the technicality of compression and mastering and that sort of thing. But yeah, knowing other people who are also contracting, freelance, is hugely beneficial, I think. But just networking, just getting to the stuff, talking to people, hustling. It's much easier to recommend someone for these things. It's just, and you know them and you know their kind of portfolio and they're just much easier to recommend at that point. Yeah.
How has the kind of breadth of people you work with changed over the years? Do you have quite a local kind of base of clients or people that you collaborate with? Or was that something that was more towards the beginning of your career? Are you kind of working with people internationally? How is it?
Yeah.
How does your client base kind of work?
Client base.
Let's say client and also collaborators. I think. Would be interesting to know.
I think it actually matters less with clients. I think I don't mind clients being anywhere really. I don't think I've done global stuff, but I've certainly had people in America and in Europe and stuff like that. I think when I'm collaborating with other people, I would prefer them to be in my locale somewhere. So I used to live in London before I moved to Bristol 8 years ago now, and I would work with people in London who I knew, and now I work with people in Bristol who I know. If I'm going to hire anyone or I'm going to get anyone to freelance, it will be someone I know, hopefully in the locality. So ideally we'll meet up and hash out and do workshops and stuff like that as well. Or I can go to, for example, I work with an audio engineer for all my audio needs, and I'll just go around to his house and we'll do a day's session, and we'll record some VO or we'll look at the sound effects in the game, and it's just so much easier that way for me, and it's convivial. You can sit and have a cup of tea and stuff, which sounds a bit old manish, but I like that.
With just meeting people, obviously you mentioned about how you started going to games jams, and I imagine that was a really good way of just ingratiating yourself in the scene and meeting those like-minded people. But I imagine everyone in here, networking is kind of a dirty word. No one really likes the idea of actually doing networking. How do you feel about networking? And from your experience, how easy was it to find yourself kind of getting into that community and finding the people you want to work with?
Yeah, I think the trick is actually tricking yourself because I think lots of people have this in the games industry as well, because it's obviously traditionally lots of introvert quite often, especially if you're a programmer or something like that. I think you just have to trick yourself. You just have to make yourself do it. Like, part of your job now is networking, and whatever lie you can tell yourself that makes that okay, just do that. You know, if you, I'm just going to go and make some friends or something like that. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, or you know, you just have to do it. And some people find it much easier than others. I've learnt to be good at it because through forcing myself to do that, and also doing the teaching. So I used to be in bands when I was like a teenager, and I was really, really shy. And then I was doing bands and stuff, and then slowly I got less shy, you know, at just standing up in front of people, basically. So these days, I've got so much practice with being in that situation that I can't be as afraid of it anymore, basically. So if it's anxiety, then, you know, start small and start online. You know, there's ways of doing it where you don't actually have to put yourself in front of people physically. Whatever the networking is, but just making yourself do it because it's part of your job. Like, you can't expect to just like have jobs appear at your door, essentially, is what I'm saying. So I think that I appreciate that lots of people find it difficult, but the way I got around it is by making it part of what I do and getting better at it, essentially.
Yeah. It's a skill to learn, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Treating it like that. Yeah.